Welcome back. Today we'll look at Paper 2 Variant 21 of the October-November 2023 series. Question 1 says tick one box to show which operator means less than or equal to. Now if we look at the first one then, or, well, this just means a logical or, so yeah, condition A or condition B. Right, well this one, right, of course, less than, so then this one is less than or equal to. Of course the final one, greater than or equal to. Right, question 2, tick one box to show how a value can be passed to a procedure. Right, so if we think of the syntax for this, let's go procedure. And hopefully I've got enough space. Right, I mean, let's think of an example procedure. Maybe let's just say, I don't know, like say hello. So we'll just have a procedure, let's call it hello. Right, then let's pass in a name like this. Okay, we'll say this name will be of type string. Then we'll just close it. Right, and then, I mean, maybe here we just go output. Because what we want to do, they'll pass in a name and then we'll just say hello and then this name. Right, so let's just say hello. Right, I'm going to give a space and then let's go comma. Right, then we'll just go name. And then, here we then just go end procedure. Okay, so in this case then what they're asking, and let me just use a different color. I mean, they're asking how we can pass data into the procedure, right? So the way we pass data into the procedure is going to be this here, right? So the parameters, because for example, then we call it, for example, let's say we say call, right? We go hello, and I don't know, let's just go like Fred or something. Let me just add the quotes there. Right, so that's how we would then call a procedure. And I mean, technically this one, right, the actual value, right, they would call the argument. Whereas, let's say here, right, where this is the actual sort of variable, well, this variable, right, then they would call the parameter, which is going to be this one. But again, I mean, just to say the difference, well, a function, this is going to be a group of reusable code that's going to return a value. So of course, for a function, well, here we would say function. Right, here we would then get end function, but for example, rather than outputting, well, we would want to have a return statement. Right, return, and also right here, so where this circle is, we would also then just want to go returns, and we would say the data type this returns. Right, so in this case we can see, well, here we would be returning a string. Right, so we would also go returns string as well, just like this. Right, and some people think, well, what's the difference between a procedure and a function? So the difference is that with a function, let's say we've got another variable called greeting. Well, we can then assign greeting a value, by calling the function. And again, let's just go hello, and well, maybe let's go Alan. Right, so in this case now, well, this hello Alan, this will evaluate, just to the text here. Right, so this will then return hello Alan. And then of course this value will then be assigned to this greeting variable. And I mean, likewise, rather than having a variable, okay, we could also just go output. We can output this hello. We could also use this like in an if statement. Maybe we have a function determining if a number is prime. So we would say if like is prime and then 7. Well, in that case that would return true. Okay, so we could use that. So return, as we said, right, that's just going to be the value that's returned from a function, right, in order to assign it or use it in an if statement or kind of if condition, or just output directly. Right, and then subroutine, well, this will be the word for either a function or a procedure. And sometimes they say subroutine, okay, other time they also say module, but module or subroutine, right, that just means, well, function or procedure, just a kind of umbrella term for both of them. Right, next one, full description of data and five data types are shown. Okay, so draw one line, to link them together. Right, so a whole number, right, that's going to be an integer. And this can be positive or negative. Right, a single letter, right, that's a char, okay, character. Right, a word or phrase, so basically multiple characters, that's going to be a string. Right, and then a number with 2 decimal places. Well, I guess that's going to be a real. And I mean, I think a real, maybe in a computer, maybe it might be 13 decimal places. I can't remember exactly how accurate a computer stores real numbers to. But I think it's something like 13 or 15, or I'm not sure exactly. And then of course, if we say boolean, I mean, boolean is just going to be true or false. Right, so for IG, these are the 5 data types you need to know. Okay, boolean, char, integer, real, and string. Right, circle the 3 words representing places where data may be stored. Alright, so I guess here, I mean, and maybe you want to read through them first, right, just to check you don't make any silly mistakes. But of course, an array, we can store data, right? We store data at each of the indexes. Right, a constant, we can also store data. A dimension, well, what this means, yeah, maybe let's just go up and I'll just write it here. So let's say we just declare an array, okay, and I mean, hopefully you can remember the syntax for this. So let's, I don't know, maybe let's say names. And right, let's say this has 2 dimensions because we'll want, first name and surname. And then, for many different people. So let's just go array. Right, let's say if we want 10 rows, well, 10 rows we would go 1 to 10 like this. Right, and then here, this now means the second dimension. And let's say for names they can have 2, right, because of a first name and a surname. Right, then we would want to go of, and then we say the data type, which is going to be string. And some people ask, like, what if we want 1 dimension, or let's say what if we want the first one to be a string, and the second position, or the second column to be an integer? Well, right, I mean for IG that's not actually possible. Okay, arrays have to be of 1 data type. Now for A level, we do actually have another thing called, well, types or records, where you can do this. Have different data types, and kind of like encapsulate them as part of one object. But yeah, for IG, right, it always just has to be 1 data type. And some people think, well, what if we need to create an array of 2 data types in a question? I mean, obviously the whole point is Cambridge are going to ask questions that only need 1 data type in the array. And sometimes, of course, they'll have it where, okay, you have 2 different arrays, but they're using the same index. Like maybe you have names and then another array, telephone. Yeah, although telephone is not the best because actually telephone would also probably be a string. So I don't know, maybe rather than names we could just say like age. And of course that can be like an array, array of integer, right? And you say, well, index 1 is in names is person 1. And of course, index 1 in age is also person 1, right? So the index just line up. Right, okay, so, the key thing then, the dimensions. Now, in this case, this will have 2 dimensions, okay, because this one is going to be the rows, and then here is going to be the columns. And some people forget, or some people might think, well, maybe it's going to be columns, then rows. But, because, I guess in maths you do, in maths it's kind of like columns, then rows. But, computer science is rows, then columns. And a way you can remember that, I mean, I'm not religious, but one thing we were told is Roman Catholic. Now, another one, you could use something like remote control. So yeah, just to remember, right, row and then columns. Right, again, I mean, input, I guess input we're not really, I mean, because we're not storing the data in the input, right? We're going to input that data into a variable. Of course, output, we're not storing data. And then procedure, again, that's just a group of, let's say a group of code that we can, call many times. And it's going to take parameters. Right, the first stage of the program development lifecycle is analysis. 2 of the tasks in analysis are abstraction and decomposition. Right, describe what is meant by abstraction. Right, I mean, so let's just do both of these. I mean, so first maybe we'll say decomposition. And that means, you take a complex problem and then you just break it down into the kind of individual tasks. So let's say if we think of like a non-computer science example, I mean, maybe you just want to talk, sort of going to school in the morning, right? Where you say first you sort of wake up, right? Then you have breakfast, then you, and then maybe have a shower, right? Then you brush your teeth, then you like take the bus or something, right? So you're taking that, I mean, not really big problem, but you're taking that whole thing of like going to school and you're just breaking it down into the individual stages. Right, then if we say abstraction, I mean, this is about removing the unnecessary detail in order to kind of solve the problem. Because, often you have unnecessary detail, which, makes a problem seem complex. But if you think about the fundamental problem, right, then it will become, much more simple to solve. So let's just say that, maybe removing the unnecessary detail. I've got no idea how to spell unnecessary, maybe 2 C's, 2 S's, I'm not really sure. Unnecessary details. yeah, in order to make the problem easier to solve. Right, and then I mean here you could give an example if you want. So let's say e.g. Maybe like let's say you want a subway map, right? E.g. a subway map, which has everything except the subway lines removed, or yeah, maybe has anything, right? Not a subway line removed. And I think this is the example in the book as well, because if you think, well, a normal map, you've got roads, you've got parks, you've got obviously all kinds of stuff, maybe even things like elevation, right? All kinds of stuff. But for a subway, we don't need any of those details, right? All we need is just the sort of simple, the simple stations, right? And you can also think something like a subway map. Now, if you were to actually properly like map the line of the subway, well, it might literally be some curve like this, because maybe this is station A, right? This is station Z, and then of course if you've got another line, maybe it's something like this, right? Another line, so it's going to get really complex, right? If you're drawing the actual lines. So that's why a real subway map, often you might have A to Z, which is literally just listed as a straight line, and then maybe this one, I don't know, this is sort of subway B, and this is subway Y or something. Then I don't know, maybe you have another one here like C, and then let's say X. So obviously by putting it in this grid pattern, again you're sort of simplifying the problem, right? You're removing the sort of unnecessary detail. Right, I mean this one I actually had no idea what they're asking here, but right, identify 3 of the component parts when a problem has been decomposed at the analysis stage. So I didn't really know what they're asking, but it seems what they're asking for, and this is an acronym I remember, right? Just IPO. So you say, well, the 3 stages of a process, right? I, that's going to be input, right? P is going to be process or processes. Then O, that's going to be output. So we can just write that. Let's go input, right? Processes, or process, right? Processes, right? Then output. And I did notice the mark scheme here, they do also include storage. So I guess, just sort of saving the data at the end. Right, so identify and describe one other stage of the program development lifecycle. Now, the way I remember this, there's a few acronyms. For me, I just remember the letters. Right, so AD and then CT. And one way you can remember that, I think, right, let's try like all dogs, can track. That was one I sort of thought of the other day. I think another one I asked ChatGPT, this is a good one. So I think, they said always double check twice. Right, so always double check twice. And again, like if you have your own acronym, that's fine. Right, so this A then, this is going to be analysis. Right, analysis. Right, D, well, that's going to be design. C is going to be coding. Right, then T is going to be testing. Right, so which one here? Here they've talked about analysis, right? So honestly, probably the easiest one to describe is just coding. So let's just go with that. Let's say coding. And what we don't want to say just coding the solution, right? Maybe that's a bit too simple. But we could say sort of like using the models developed in the design. Then we're going to implement that into a working solution. Or sort of using the previous analysis and design. Maybe let's say using results, right, of analysis and design stages. Excuse my handwriting. Right, using results of analysis and design stages. Let's say programmers or developers. Right, let's say programmers. Will maybe implement a working solution in code. Right, a working solution in code. Alright, I think that's fine. And then, let's say just as an example, well, to describe the design stage, I mean, this one basically is about kind of drawing diagrams. So some of the diagrams you can draw, I mean, you could say flowcharts. I suppose it's not always diagrams, because you can also mention, you know, they could use pseudocode. I mean, you could say, you know, structured English. Yeah, I think maybe that's IG, right? Maybe not. And then, I mean, you know, for A level, there's also other diagrams, but I think, yeah, I think here for IG, right, you know, these would be the main two. So yeah, kind of, yeah, drawing flowcharts, making pseudocode. Yeah, and then, I mean, while testing, of course, yeah, you're just going to be testing the solution, right? And you can say making sure that your program, you know, adheres to the requirements, right? And these requirements would have been made in the analysis stage, because I mean, if you're making software yourself, of course, it's your own requirements. If someone else is paying you to make software, right, they would have given you a list of requirements. Say, yeah, we want the program to, I don't know, you know, allow the user to, right, upload photos or upload videos, or yeah, I know, you know, make accounts, delete accounts, right, all of these requirements. Yeah, and then you would test it, right, make sure it does that. Right, the next one, so an algorithm, right, it's been written in pseudocode. Yeah, and I mean, I think other people mentioned this one as well. The syntax is a bit weird. Like here, I mean, at least according to the pseudocode guide, right, you should go like array. Well, I mean, so yeah, I mean, basically, you know, usually this is written something like this. So just like we saw before, you go array, right, then 1 to 10. Right, yeah, then of string. Now, of course, you know, it is only pseudocode, so it doesn't have to adhere to a strict syntax specifically. But yeah, like as long as you're consistent, you know, throughout your code. Yeah, and but I mean, to be honest, I would say, you know, just use the syntax that they give in the official document. Yeah, it's pointless trying to use your own syntax. Right, so here then, well, they're going to make an array called string. We've then got a temp called string, right? We've got a C and L, well, their data type's integer. And I mean, you know, this question, sometimes people might look at this and they just get overwhelmed, right? Or, you know, maybe they look at it and try to guess what it's doing. But I think, you know, just go through it line by line. Right, so then we're assigning 10 to this L. And if you notice, right, 10 is also, right, the size of the array. It's got 10 elements. Right, then we're looping, well, 1 to 10. Right, we're asking them to enter their name, and then we're inputting this at the position. So, for example, this is just going to ask them to input 10 names, effectively. Right, then what we're doing, well, we're looping, right, 1 to 10. Right, this inner loop. Right, then we're going to loop, well, from 1 to 9. And yeah, we're just checking, well, if the current index is greater than the, you know, sort of current index plus 1, right, then we've got this t, and we're saying, well, this t is going to be the current index. Yeah, so right, this one is then going to be, well, yeah, we're then assigning this, you know, the index plus 1, right, this one then gets the t again. So, I mean, hopefully you can probably see, right, this is just going to be bubble sort. And if we think about this, I mean, let's just say we have, let's say this L, right, maybe this has the name, well, I mean, let's just say, I mean, let's say B, yeah, because it has to be bigger. And then here, let's say, right, L plus 1. So I don't know, maybe this is index 1, right, this is index 2 or something. Right, let's say this has the value A. Now, if we think, right, in ASCII, because, I mean, this is how it's going to work, it's going to use the ASCII codes. Right, now, in ASCII, small a would be 97. Right, therefore, big A would therefore be, small b would therefore be 98. So in this case, we're checking, well, is L, or yeah, is this index bigger than this index? Right, and then in this case it is, right, because 98 is bigger than 97. So you think, well, then what we're doing, we've got this temporary variable, let's call it t. Right, so we're assigning this AL into t. So let's just go here, right, I mean, that's just this b. Right, so b goes into this address t. Then what we have, so right, L, right, yeah, index plus 1 goes into L. So basically that you know, that A just goes here. Yeah, and then if we look at the last one, well, T then goes into, you know, L plus 1. So that's just going to be here, right? So yeah, B is then in this position. So what you notice is that, well, you know, initially here we had, right, B and this one was A. Yeah, now we've got this one is A, this one is B, right? So it's just swap them. And then I guess if we look here, right, well, here then it just outputs, it's going to say name, all right, then it's going to output the name. Okay, no, sorry. Okay, right. This is going to be the count. So it will say like, right, name 1 is, and then yeah, it'll be the first name in the alphabet. Of course, right then name 2, yeah, the second name, right, sorted ascendingly. And it is good to check because, you know, let's say if we look at this one, right, greater than. Now, if instead they used a less than, well, then it would sort in descending order. So it would go, you know, obviously you've got Z, right, Y, yeah, down to A. But in this case, because it's greater than, well, we're saying, for example, here, right, you know, B is greater than A, therefore we swap them, right? And then, of course, yeah, A is going to be first, B is going to be second. So let's just say here, I mean, let's try and describe the whole thing, right? So just input 10 names, or yeah, user inputs 10 names. Right, let's say sorts them in ascending order. Yeah, let's say sorts them alphabetically in ascending order. Right, yeah, ascending order. Yeah, and outputs them, or maybe outputs a numbered list. Right, so outputs a numbered list of names. Yeah, I think that should be fine. Right, so 4 processes in this algorithm. Now this question, yeah, to me this was also a bit strange. Because, I mean, if we think about the different types where you have, you know, process, then you have selection, you have iteration. Now selection, well, let's write that. Right, selections, right, that's going to be, well, if statements, yeah, also case statements. Right, then if we have iteration, well, iteration, that's the 3 loops, right? So a for loop, right, then we've got a while loop, right, while, and yeah, then of course, you know, repeat until. And, you know, then processes, that would be everything else. So that would be like assignment, that would be declaration. Yeah, that would be, for example, like calling, yeah, let's say like calling a procedure, or, you know, calling a function, right, things like that. But if we look here, I mean, we don't really have that much. I mean, we have declaration, which we can mention, right? We can also say assignment. I mean, output we wouldn't really want to say because, yeah, I guess you can consider that like input-output really. But, I mean, I did check the mark scheme for this. And here, well, let me just use a different color. Like, I think here they're just talking about the sort of individual groups. So you say, well, the first group they declare. You know, then you say, well, this group, what they're looping through, assigning 10 names, right? This group here, you can say, well, this is, you know, sorting, right? Then this group, right? They're just, yeah, they're just outputting the names. So let's just say that. All right, let's go. Yeah, declaring. Right, declaring initial variables, or yeah, well, just declaring variables. Yeah, I know, right? For use in program. Because yeah, maybe just saying, you know, declaring variables is not enough. Right, first one, let's say, well, yeah, let's just say looping 10 times, or yeah, I know, right, looping 10 times. Yeah, I know, like asking user to enter name or something. Right, to enter names, or yeah, we can just say, you know, asking the user to enter 10 names in a loop. Right, then let's say, I mean, what, I don't know, let's just say like sorting the 10 names. Right, sorting 10 names. And we can probably mention the if statement. So let's say by checking, right, if current element is greater than the next element. Right, and then we can say, right, and then let's say if they are, well, let's say maybe if true, right, then swap elements. Right, and then, I mean, I think the last one, then they just output. So let's just go outputting the 10 names. Yeah, let's say in a numbered list. Because again, it's going to output, right, like name 1, name 2, name 3. Yeah, just, you know, in ascending order, right, you know, with the numbers. Right, meaningful identifiers have not been used in this algorithm. Suggest suitable meaningful identifiers. Right, so the array, I mean, I guess, well, this is just names, right? It says, you know, enter a name or something. So let's just go name. Yeah, well, names. Right, I mean, this was the temp. So yeah, the temporary variable that was, you know, storing the swap value. Right, C, so if we have a look at this, right, C is going to be this one, right, in the for loop. So here I think we can just call it count or counter. So yeah, let's go count. Right, and then L, I think that was just, well, yeah, so that was just the length of the array. Because remember we said that L would, 10 was assigned to L. Right, state two other ways the algorithm could be made easier to understand and maintain. So let's go ahead and look at it. So I think first, I mean, some of this you could break into functions and procedures. Like maybe this one, we can have a procedure called, you know, get names or something, and that's just going to loop through 10 times. We could then have another one, right, another procedure just to sort the array, and then again, right, another procedure just to output the array. And the advantage with that is, of course, well, then if we had like many different arrays, right, maybe we have an array of names, an array of emails, an array of, telephone numbers, right, you know, we could use these same procedures to, you know, get 10 inputs for all of these. And you know, like with a procedure, right, if we had a parameter, well, we could have a parameter which is, let's say length, right, so yeah, that would be an integer parameter. I mean, yeah, obviously, well, that should be capitals really in pseudocode. But right, I mean, let's say if we have this length integer parameter, then we could actually use this for different sized arrays, right? Maybe we have 10 names, but like another program, you know, might have emails and we only have 5 emails. But yeah, you know, we can use a length parameter so it will work for different size arrays. So let's just say that, let's say, by using modules. Or yeah, we can, maybe we can say, yeah, by breaking code down into modules. Right, let's just say, right, functions, procedures, we'll just put that in brackets. So let's say, yeah, makes code more organized, right, easier to understand. Right, easier to understand. Because again, like what you would do is you would literally go, you know, call, I don't know, maybe you go something like this, right? So call, right, and then the first one maybe we just call get inputs, right? Yeah, inputs. You know, the next one, well, let's go call, and I guess this one we can just call sort. And you know, probably in here you'd want the actual array, you know, as an argument, as a parameter. Right, then finally you just go call, and I know maybe like output array. And of course, yeah, call the output array. Again, right, you'd have the array as a parameter like this, yeah, as an argument, right? So hopefully, I mean, this should be quite easy to understand, right? Because we just call it get inputs, then we call it sort, then we call it output array. So yeah, quite easy to understand what's going on. Right, so by using modules, functions, procedures makes, let's say, well, makes the code, right, more organized / easier to understand. Right, and then I think the next one, they also didn't have any comments. So let's say, yeah, add comments. Then the reason for comments, well, to explain, you know, to yourself in the future, right, but also other programmers if they look at it. To explain functionality, yeah, or maybe to explain, yeah, I guess functionality of code. Right, yeah, okay. Right, of code, let's say to your future self. Yeah, or other programmers. Alright, and then I think also, you know, they also don't really have any spacing. So you could mention, well, you have let's say a space here, right, between this 18 and 19. Yeah, maybe also a space between this. And then I don't know, maybe a space, you know, after this line 4, right, just to sort of separate out the for loops, so it becomes easier to see. Alright, and then, okay, so logic circuit. Right, write a logic expression, yeah, do not simplify. Right, so let's just start, obviously, well, at the top, and then we'll just go left to right. So A, right, this is going to be not A. Right, then this is going to be an AND, so that's going to be not A and B. Right, okay, yeah, and B. Right, then we've got this, which I guess this is their OR. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange shape. Right, but so let's put this in brackets because we're gonna right, we're gonna OR it, and then well, we're gonna OR it with this, right, which is going to be not C. Yeah, okay, so that should be fine. And I mean, there is another way to do it. Like if this is complex, then you can also just write it directly above. And I mean, this one is not too difficult, but let's imagine you had some logic circuit with like, 10 different logic gates in it, right? That might get quite complex. So here, well, at this stage, this is going to be not A, right? Then at this stage, it's going to be, well, not A, right, and B. Right, let's say at, this stage here is going to be not C. Right, and then, well, this stage here, yeah, then it's just, then it's going to be this whole thing, right, when we get to X. And again, when we've only got like 4 logic gates, it's probably not necessary. But for more complex examples, I don't know, maybe for A level they might have 6 or 7 logic gates. Then I would say often it is actually quite useful to kind of write them out at each stage. Right, so complete the truth table for the given logic circuit. Alright, so and I mean here this is where I'm going to write down each of the stages. So let's go not A. Right, then the next one, let's then go, I guess not A and B. Right, not A and, and B. Right, the next one is going to be not C. Then I guess, just finally, right, that's going to be X. Right, that's all we need. Okay, so if we just go not A, well, actually we can see here, right, we've got these 4 zeros and 4 ones. So we can just quickly do that, alright. Yeah, of course, well, not 0 becomes 1, right, not 1 becomes 0. I mean, we can also just do this not C quickly if we want. So we see not C, right, C alternates, so it goes, well, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. So I guess we can then just go, right, 1, 0, 1, 0. Yeah, just alternate them the other way. Alright, so then if we want to go not A and B, right, so that's going to be using this column here, and then, also, of course, this B column. And the way I like to do it, because if you try and go column by column, if you go row by row, sometimes you can make a mistake. So what I actually find is easier is if you just look for the rows that are true, right? So here we see, well, 1 and 1, okay, that's going to be true, so let's write that. Here again, we also get 1 and 1, right, that's going to be true. And then, so everything else, right, is going to be false. So because they're the only 2 that are 1 and 1, well, let's then go back and then just write, zeros in all of the others. Right, and then I'm going to use that same logic. So then we want to go, well, so basically write this, and then, this. So let's just look at where they're both 1s. So, right, they're both 1s here. Yeah, okay. Alright, so, I realise I have been a bit stupid there. Right, this is not an AND, okay, this is an OR. Yeah, I was thinking that was wrong. Alright, so OR is going to be easier then, right? So just 0 or 1, okay, that's going to be 1. Of course, well, here's 0. Alright, here there's going to be a 1. Right, there's going to be another 1. 0 or 1, right, that's a 1. 0 or 1. Okay, and then we can just fill in these 0 zeros like this. And, obviously, well, there I've just made a silly mistake. I mean, probably that's why, once you've done it, of course, go back, check your answer. And it's probably easier, right, if you can see the whole page in one go. Alright, so I think just a few more before the 15 marker. Right, a programmer is designing an algorithm to calculate the cost of a length of rope. Right, the requirements, right, input 2 values, the length of the rope in meters, right, that's called length. And the cost of 1 meter, right, well, that's stored in a variable cost. Perform a validation check on the length to ensure the value is between 0.5 and 6 inclusive. Right, then calculate the price. Right, output the price rounded to 2 decimal places. Okay, so if we look at this, I mean, okay, alright, so first state the name of the validation check. So if we're checking it's between 0.5 and 6 inclusive, right, that's going to be a range check. Right, so yeah, what we want to do then, well, first we can probably just input cost, because cost we actually don't need any validation. Although, you know, we could also do length right in this order. Yeah, maybe let's do that. Right, so if you think then input is going to be the parallelogram. Okay, right, parallelogram like this. So let's go input, and right, this is length. Right, but then what we're going to want is we're going to want a condition, and if the condition is, well, yeah, let's say if the condition is true, right, if it is between this, then I guess, well, that's fine. Let's say if it's not true, well, then we want it to loop back, right, to this input length again. So the conditions in flowcharts, that's going to be the diamond like this. And let's say, yeah, I think I'm not going to have enough space. Right, let's say is, and yeah, let me just write this again because there's not going to be enough space to draw that. Alright, so let's go here, right, is, and we will say, right, length, and right, that should be greater than or equal to 0.5. Right, let's go and, right, and then length, and that should be, what, less than or equal to 6. And note, right, because it says inclusive, right, this means that 0.5 and 6 are acceptable. Now, if it said exclusive, right, this means that, well, 0.5, you know, wouldn't be acceptable, right, likewise, same for 6. So yeah, exclusive is going to be, right, greater than or less than, but inclusive, right, as we see here, is going to be, yeah, greater than or equal to and less than or equal to. Right, so let's have a yes, and then we'll just, let's say no. Right, okay, so yeah, this one is going to be no. And it's just going to ask them to do it again. Right, then here let's just write yes. Right, I think the next one then it says we just want to input cost. And again, right, that should be a parallelogram like this. Yeah, I'm not, hang on, right, let me just draw that again. Alright, so yeah, let's go input cost. Alright, and then I think this one, it doesn't need any validation, but right, okay, then we just want to calculate the price. So let's say, for example, the length is like 3 meters and the cost is, I don't know, like 5 per meter. Well, right, then we're just going to multiply these together, right? So yeah, okay. And then, I mean, for this, they often just say set. And then because this is the process, right, this will just be in a rectangle. So let's say set. Right, yeah, that should be an E, right? Set. Let's go price. Yeah, I think maybe small r. Right, then we say 2, and what this will be right, cost multiplied by length. Yeah, I think again I don't have much space, but let's just do it. Right, cost, and then yeah, multiplied by length. Right, then do we need to output? Yeah, output the price right to 2 decimal places. Okay. So right, output then again, that's going to be the parallelogram. And let's just go output. Right, then we can use round because that's one of the IGCSE functions. Right, this is going to be price. And then round it, well, it also takes a second parameter. And the second parameter is the number of decimal places. Right, so here we're saying, yeah, round price to 2 decimal places. Now, if we want to round it to an integer, okay, we can just set 0 as the second decimal place. Because, yeah, this means, well, 0 decimal places, right? Which is going to be an integer. Alright, so give 2 different sets of test data for this algorithm and state the purpose of each set. So if we think sets of test data, well, normal, right, abnormal, right, then we've got boundary. So yeah, let's say here we can just have normal. And let's think, okay, so here it doesn't have a value. So the purpose is, well, I mean, this is going to, this is going to be data that should be accepted. Yeah, so let's say, right, yeah, data, right, that should be accepted by the program. Right, okay, and we can probably, you know, because it says for this algorithm, let's be a bit more specific here. So yeah, this will be used, right, so let's say, yeah, e.g., right, e.g. a valid length will be used to calculate the price. Right, yeah, a valid length will be used to calculate the price. Alright, and then let's say, yeah, abnormal. And I think sometimes they also call this erroneous, but yeah, let's just go with abnormal. Right, so this would be invalid data. I mean, like, I'm just going to do the same, right? So data that, well, shouldn't be accepted by the program. And then you say, well, yeah, e.g., right, invalid length. Right, invalid length. That will cause the program to, you know, prompt us to enter again. Right, yeah, that will cause the program, yeah, maybe to ask us to re-enter, you know, a new length. Right, yeah, new and then length. Right, so complete the headings for the trace table to show a dry run for this algorithm. Right, yeah, you do not need to trace. Right, so this is just saying, well, what variables do we want to trace? And then, I mean, if we look at that, well, we can just see the variable names here. Right, so we've got length, we've got cost, we've got price, yeah, and then we've also got an output here. Right, so you just want to write these here. So let's go length, right, then we'll go price, or in fact, well, I mean, let's keep them in the same order they're declared. So I think, yeah, length, cost, right, price, or I mean, not declared, but, you know, the order they're assigned to or input. Right, and then let's go output at the end. Right, describe an improvement that should be made to the requirements for this algorithm. So I think one, I mean, you notice how we validated the length, right, but we didn't validate the cost. So let's just say that. Yeah, maybe add a range. Yeah, I guess we can have a range check. I mean, certainly you'd want a minimum cost because, for example, if they said the cost was 0, well, that would be invalid. You know, this might be even worse, where if they say the cost is negative, because you imagine, like, say you have a database, and let's say the database does something. I mean, if you're using SQL syntax, maybe you go, let's say, like, update. Let's say, I don't know, like, you know, update customer or something. Right, then what we'll do is we'll have a set, and let's say, like, balance, right, so this is the amount of money in their account. Right, so we say set balance equal, and then what we would say is maybe we just go, well, balance, and then let's say plus price. Right, and well, then you'd want like a where ID, so let's go where. Yeah, let's say where, right, ID, okay, yeah, ID, and let's go like equals 3. So what this would do, well, this would update the customer table. It would set the balance to be, well, the, you know, the current balance, right, plus the price. Okay. Oh, no, I guess, yeah, let's do the current balance minus the price. Because, yeah, let's say they had 100, but they spent 20. Right now, they're going to have 80. Yeah, where ID equals 3. So, right, that's saying, well, where the customer ID equals 3. Now, if, for example, here they entered a negative cost, right, I mean, or if they entered a negative length as well, then what you would get is you would get, well, let's say the price would then be negative, like minus 20. So in this case, if we do, well, let's say balance, right, 100, and then minus 20, well, I mean, hopefully you can see, right, their balance is now going to increase. So yeah, this is obviously invalid, right? This is why we want to validate, yeah, both the length and the cost. So let's say that, right, add a range check, yeah, to, you know, validate the cost. And then we could give an example, right? So let's say, yeah, e.g., yeah, don't allow, right, cost, yeah, of, let's say, right, less than or equal to 0. Yeah, and also maybe have an upper bound. I mean, I think in this case, like, it's probably not necessary to have an upper bound. I mean, there wouldn't really be any sort of strange behavior. I mean, unless you start talking about, like binary overflow and things. But like, if someone said, okay, 1 meter of rope costs like $1 million. Well, I mean, I guess it depends the currency, but I mean, let's say if that's like $1 million, you think, well, that's probably going to be invalid, like unless it's made out of diamonds or something. So yeah, I mean, like an upper bound is not really required, but I guess maybe it might be useful. Yeah, I mean, are there any other improvements? No, I think that's going to be the main one, right? Just validate that. Question 9 says, a model shop wants to set up a database to help with stock control of the model figures available for sale. The shop wants to store this information about the model figures. Right, so field 1 catalog number, right, for example, this. Right, so we see here, well, this is going to be both letters and numbers, right, so it's alphanumeric. Yeah, so for this one, I think we could just go text, because if we look part A, it says, right, we need 5 fields for each record, right, give suitable name and data type for each field. So field 1 then. Right, let's go, yeah, maybe like, well, the name, maybe just cat num, right, so the, yeah, catalog number. Right, and then the data type, I mean, I think we can just say text. Now, real SQL, right, we would often use varchar. And then you can do something like varchar 6, and what this means, well, this is a variable character. So basically it means, well, it's going to be basically a string, right, but it can be a variable length, from 0 to 6 characters. Now, if instead we wanted the ID to be, up to 10 characters, well then of course we would just go varchar 10. But yeah, I think for IG we can just say text, right, that's fine. The next one, description, for example, well, small white dog. So I mean, let's just call this description. And I mean, you could use something like desk, but the problem with desk, I mean, this is also this is also one of the SQL keywords, right? Because for example, we can go order by, so well, order by ASC, right? That's ordering, ascending. Right, then we also go, order by DESC, right? That's going to be, order by, right, descending. Now, I mean, SQL, you can get around this by, if you just put this in quotes, right, or in backticks, that should work. But yeah, I mean, let's just go description, that's fine. And again, this can also just be text. And I think, they also do accept alphanumeric, although I'm not sure that's actually a real SQL data type. I mean, text is definitely a real data type, right, so that's why I would go with this. Right, field 3, so number in stock, for example, 5. Let's say stock amount, right, or we can say stock quantity. Yeah, I think amount is fine. I mean, we don't really want to say stock number, because stock number, that sounds like it could possibly be an ID, right? Whereas if we say amount or quantity, or maybe like number in stock, right, that's, more explicit. Or I think, well, stock level, right, that's also fine. Right, so that's going to be an integer. Right, field 4, the price of each model, so let's just call this price. And yeah, we see this is going to be a real, okay, because it can be a decimal. And right, if the model's been painted, let's call it maybe is painted. And yeah, I think for me, like, booleans, you can always just have like is. So for example, like, I don't know, maybe they've like some membership, right? Either they're a member, they're not a member. So you say, is member. Like if they've, I don't know, if they've like signed up, because like has signed up or is signed up. Right, so let's just go boolean. Right, boolean. So right, boolen. lean. Right, give the name of the field that should be used for the primary key. So the primary key is going to be this, then the category number, right, the cat number. Because again, I mean, this is going to be what's unique. Right, so cat num. Let's say right, it can uniquely identify each record. Right, uniquely identify, and then we can say record. I think they often like the word tuple. Right, so when we say record tuple, well, this just means row, right? So the row in the database is called a tuple or record, right? The column in a database, well, you can say field, I mean, maybe attribute, but yeah, I guess field is going to be the most common, probably. Right, and then, yeah, so I think the last one before the 15 marker. Right, structured query language SQL is used to query data stored in this database. State what these SQL commands are used for. Right, so select, I mean, if we think of like a real statement, yeah, maybe, well, okay, let's just write it here. I think I've got space. So let's try and go here. We'll go select, and I mean, maybe we can do it about this one. So let's go select the cat num, and let's just select the price. Right then, from, so this is where we have the table name. Let's say, I don't know, is it like products? Yeah, I'm not sure if they told us the name of the table. Maybe, maybe not. And then let's say where, and let's just find the ones where the the stock amount is greater than 0, right? And you know, I mean, we can write it here, right? We can also go on to the next line. That's also fine. Right, let's say stock amount, is greater than 0, right? So this is just checking, you know, well, get the catalog number, right? The ID, also the price, where the stock amount is greater than 0. So what we can see then, well, this select, I mean, the way we can explain that, that's just the, you know, the fields we want to kind of return from the query. Let's say, maybe we could say like specify, or so let's say that specifies, right, the fields we want to fetch. Maybe like, let's say in our query. Right then, from, well, this is the table name. Let's say, the table name we are querying. Or in fact, I mean, let's not say table, or let's be more, kind of, I don't know, more, you know, relational database terminology like. So here then, well, this is the relation. Because again, right, relation just means table, right? So the relation we are fetching, so I mean, let's just say the same, right? So the relation we are fetching the data from. Right, and then where, so this will be the condition to filter on. So, I mean, let's say, fetch tuples, you know, where this condition is true. All right, fetch, all tuples, or you could say records, right, tuples records, where this condition is true. Now, if you go to the site here, you can click on this exam questions, and here it will just give you the starter code, as well as the question paper, also the mark scheme, for each of these questions. So if we just look here at the first one, this is what, 2023, October, November. So, you know, kind of the most recent one. I mean, other than the March, which is kind of not publicly available yet. But anyway, so what we can do, you know, basically, well, we can just copy this code, right, or just click open in code editor. And I'm just going to close it because I've done that already. And then this is kind of like the starter code that Cambridge says they've already declared. So, you know, we don't actually have to declare this. But this is provided, you know, just so you can kind of directly start typing your actual answer here. So I guess first, well, let's actually just try and read the question. Right, so here then it says drama students put on a performance of a play for one evening. Seats in a small theatre can be booked for the performance. Right, the theatre has 10 rows of 20 seats, and the status of the seat bookings for the evening are held in the two-dimensional boolean array called evening. Each element contains false if the seat is available and true if the seat is booked. Right, up to and including 4 seats can be booked at one time, and seats are allocated in order from those available. Right, a row or seat number cannot be requested. This is quite important here, right? Because this will affect our implementation. What this is saying then is that, like, if 10 seats are taken, well, then the next seat we need is going to be 11, right? Then of course the next one 12, the next one 13. We can't choose where to sit. Right, okay, then it says the array evening has already been set up and some data has been stored. So I guess this means some people have already made a booking. Right, what we want then? We want a program that meets the following requirements. It will count and output the number of seats already booked for the evening. Right, it's also going to allow the user to input the number of seats required. Right, then it will validate the input. Right, it's also, so when it says validate, well, that just means check that it's between 1 and 4. Right, between 1 and 4 seats are booked. Right, then it will check if there's enough seats available, and if there are, it will change the status of those seats, so change them to true. It will also output the row number and seat number for each seat booked. However, if they're not available, then it's going to output a message giving the number of seats left, right, or house full if the theatre is fully booked. Right, and here it says, well, you can use pseudocode or program code, and you have to add comments to explain how your code works. Right, you do not need to declare any arrays or variables. You may assume this has already been done. Now, I mean, when it says this, I mean, this just means you don't have to declare, evening, because this has been set up. But any of your own variables you will have to declare, and you will have to assign them values. Right, and then it also says you do not have to initialize the data in the array evening, because I guess there's already bookings, right? That's been done already. And then so all inputs and outputs must contain suitable messages. Right, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open this here. In fact, let me just close this. Right, so let me make this full screen. So I think what I might do first, I think I might just have a menu. All right, so something like this here. So let's give them a choice to make a booking. All right, also see the number of bookings, and then finally exit. And I think maybe I'll actually just delete this one, to be honest. I'll just have make booking and exit. So in order to make a menu, well, we're going to need either a character or we can have an integer variable. But I think, probably I'm just going to have character because I'll just use the characters, well, B or E. Or in fact, I mean, let's go integer, right? I think it's easier. Right, let's go menu choice, and let's say this is going to be of type integer. And then what we'll do, we'll just go repeat until. And probably in here, and now, all right, let's say if you're in the exam, okay, you probably want to give yourself some space because, maybe you forget to declare some stuff. All right, so I'm just going to give myself some space for when I need to go back and declare some variables. Right, so let's say here we can just go output, and let's say I don't know. I mean, if we want, we can give it some heading like this, maybe theatre booking app. Although honestly, in the exam, you don't really need this, right? And then I mean here, I'm just going to go /n. The only reason I do that is because, well, I want the whole message to display in one go. Now, I mean, in the exam, you can just have another output like this. However, the problem is, well, the way the site works is that it only outputs the sort of most recent message, and it only kind of gives that like on the input prompt. And I mean, the reason for that is because, well, otherwise there's no way to specify, which particular output message you want for the input prompt. So right, I mean, basically what I'm going to do, I'm just going to sort of do it a bit ugly, but keep everything all on one line, or as part of one output statement. So let's say 1 can be make booking, and let's go another /n, right? So /n just means new line. And then we'll say 2, this can, well, just be exit. Right, then we'll just go input, and we're going to input into menu choice, and we're going to keep doing this until menu choice, and until that equals 2. All right, because, well, when it equals 2, that's when they've chosen exit. Now, I think inside here, let's also have an if statement, so we'll just go if menu choice equals 1. And then let's just end if like this. So basically here, this will be the code, for them to make a booking. Now, if we actually look at this, and I think there is actually one thing I have forgot, right? So if we go back here to the document, it does say there's already been some data stored. Now, to me, this is a bit ambiguous. But I think while looking at the mark scheme, you know, what they want us to do is they want you to loop through the array and basically count up how many seats have already been booked. And to be honest, you know, I do find that a bit confusing because, I mean, I suppose, yeah, they do say here already booked, but it doesn't particularly make clear, like, already booked, you know, the first time the program has been run, or already booked, you know, after they've kind of made bookings here. But yeah, I think this just wants us to count up, you know, kind of from the start. So let's say here, maybe we can say, yeah, I mean, like, maybe num seats booked. And then right here, let's just assign this. So this num seats booked, okay, this will start at 0. And then what we want to do, well, we just want to loop through all of these rows and columns. And yeah, basically just check, you know, when they're true. Now, for this test, I'll probably just set 1 or 2 to be true, you know, just so we can actually see this. Yeah, I mean, let's say 4 have been booked already. Right, so I mean, here then we just need to loop through a 2D array. Now, yeah, we just want to loop through like this, okay, just rows and columns. So let's say here row, that's going to start at 1, and then we go, well, to the number of rows, which is this. And I mean, you know, I might just maybe, yeah, I might just change this, hang on. Let's call this num rows, just to kind of differentiate it a little bit. And let's say here, this can be num columns. Okay, right, that should be fine. Right, okay, so yeah, here we're going to loop until num rows. Then we're going to loop, well, for column equals 1 to the number of columns. Right, and then what we want to do, well, we just want to check if this particular seat equals true. So here we just go evening. This is going to be row and then column. Right, this is the index, and we just check if that equals true. Right, then if it is equal true, if it is equal true, here we just increment the number of seats already booked. And in order to increment, well, we just go, yeah, number of seats booked, and then assign number of seats booked plus 1. And then make sure here just go next column, right, and then we also go next row, just like this. Now, you know, the good thing with the site is, of course, we can actually test this. So let's say number of seats booked. And probably, like it said, let's give it an output message already. So we can just say, I don't know, yeah, seats booked, or yeah, I know, seats already booked. And then let's just, yeah, go something like that. All right, so hopefully this works. Yeah, okay, so here it says seats already booked, and let's just try make booking. Right, so currently nothing happens, and then if we go exit, and yeah, we see exit, right, this exits the program. Okay, so this is working quite nicely. I mean, now, of course, we just need to do the most difficult thing, which is going to be, well, kind of making a booking. And yeah, I'm just going to go back here just to check what they want us to do. Right, so first then it's going to ask, well, we need to ask the user to enter the number of seats, and we're just going to validate this. Now, yeah, this one is actually not too difficult. So let's say here, maybe num seats, yeah, to book or something. Or we could call it, yeah, number of seat, I don't know, you know, yeah, like num to book. I guess it doesn't really matter. Right, so what we're going to do, let's go output. And in fact, we can probably, I mean, again, we can put this in a repeat until, right? We could also put it in a, you know, while. Yeah, I mean, all right, maybe here, let's put it in a while loop, you know, just to be different. Although, to be honest, here, I would probably say a repeat until is better. Because, yeah, you always want to do this at least one time, right? So, yeah, let's actually do a repeat until. And the condition here, well, it's going to be, yeah, num seats to book. And this should be, what, greater than or equal to 1, right? And it should also be, right, should also be less than or equal to 4, just like this. And then let's output, let's say, yeah, enter number of seats to book. All right, and then we'll just input this into num seats to book. And then yeah, let's just output this again just to test it. But yeah, this should work. Right, so here we want to choose make booking, enter number of seats to book. Well, let's say 0. Right, yeah, that's going to ask again. All right, let's say 5. Okay, it's going to ask again. Let's say 4. And yeah, okay, you see 4 is then going to accept. And then it's going to ask us to make another booking. But yeah, let's just stop that. Right, so I think that's okay. So yeah, I mean, I think we've done the first 3 parts. Now we just want to check if there's enough seats available. And if you think about this, I mean, here, well, the number of seats is just going to be the rows multiplied by the column. So maybe here, you know, we can just go total seats, and you know, we can actually make this a constant if we want as well. Although the thing with making it a constant, I mean, let's just do it here. Let's go total seats. Oh yeah, total seats available. I mean, ideally we would go something like, for example, we can do, you know, next rows multiplied by next columns. And for the site, this will actually work, I think. However, Cambridge, they say that we shouldn't actually use kind of calculations for constants. They actually want us to hard code it. All right, so yeah, we can actually hard code this as 200. Because again, if we got 10 rows and 20 columns, right, that means there's going to be 200 seats. And yeah, I'll make that as a constant, right, rather than a variable. So I think basically what we want to do, well, we just want to check if the number of seats already booked plus the number of seats they've chosen is greater. Well, I mean, let's check if it's less than, right? If it's less than the total seats available, then it means there's enough seats available, right? Else it means, well, there's not enough seats available. Because, for example, let's say if the number of seats booked is, you know, 198, right? If they then want to book 4 seats, well, if we're then checking it's less than 200, because again the total seats available is 200, of course this is going to be false, right? Which means, well, basically they're not able to make a booking. So yeah, this will be the condition that we're going to check. And I mean, let's go back. Like in this case, will it let us book 2 seats and then just say, you know, sort of like full up, or will it just yeah, I think here it doesn't really specify. Right, I mean, I think here we can probably just do it like this. So we'll just have an if statement, and yeah, we'll just kind of check if there's enough seats available, and you know, if there is, we'll let them book it. If not, then yeah, they won't be able to book any of them, and we'll tell them to, you know, book less, kind of a smaller number. Right, so the way we can check that then, what did we call it? So I think we said number of seats booked, or is that? Yeah, okay, so number of seats booked, this is how many they've already booked. Then we want to say plus the number of seats to book, right, so this is their current booking. And we just want to check if that is bigger than the total seats available. I mean, or in fact, well, let's check if it's less than. Alright, and I guess less than or equal to, that should be fine. And then if it is, well, then it's going to be okay. And then let's have an else, just have an end if. And here let's just output a message, you know, like not enough seats available. Alright, let's say can't book, and then we want to say num seats to book. Oh yeah, let's scroll down, and then we'll say something like only, and then what's this calculation? This will be, this will be the total seats available minus the num seats booked, right? Because again, if this is 200, this is 198, right? This will say only 2 seats available. Right, okay. I mean, I'm not going to test this, alright, but yeah, I think that should work. And then if we go here, well, basically now we just want to loop through and we want to calculate the position of where to book. And I mean, this is the most complex thing. Yeah, let me just check. Yeah, okay, so right, I think that's all we need to do. It also says house full if the theatre is fully booked. Okay, so I guess here they want 2 conditions.
Right, so I guess here let's have another if. So here we can go num seats booked, and if this is equal to the total seats available, right, then we're going to output house full. Right, else we're going to output, can't book 4 seats because only 2 available. Alright, so I think that's fine. Right, and then this one, this is quite complex, so I have actually got it here in, WPS. Now, often if you have a grid, and this can be here for the seat numbers, right, it can also be for things like games, let's say, noughts and crosses, battleships, right, minesweepers. You often have a situation where you have a number, like let's say the cell number, and then you want to calculate the row and column from that cell number. Now the way we can do that is by using a combination of let's say modulus and div, right, integer division. Because for example, let's say here we choose 10. Well, if we think about this, if we do 10 divided by 4, and the reason we say 4 is because basically there's 4 seats per row. So if we do 10 divided by 4, well, that's going to be 2. Right, so this means like there's already been 2 rows that are fully full, and then if we do 10 mod 2, right, that's going to be 2. So basically that's saying, well, 2 rows are already full, and then we want to go to kind of the second row in this column. So if I try to just demonstrate this with the actual function, and I will actually show you other ways to do this, like just using an if statement. I think just using simple like multiplication and subtraction as well. But yeah, Cambridge, the way they do it in the mark scheme is using div and mod. All right. Although yeah, if you do have another method that works, that's also okay. So let's say here the seat number is 1. Now if we think, well, 1 mod 4 is going to be 1. Okay, so that's going to be the correct column. If we have 2 mod 4, okay, that's also column 2, that's correct. 3 mod 4, column 3, that's correct. But the problem here, if we have 4 mod 4, well, this is going to be incorrect. Because, yeah, 4 mod 4 is going to say 0. We can actually do this here. So I think here they call it quotient. But, yeah, this is just mod. It's not quotient. Right, okay, this one is mod. I think quotient is what they call div. Okay, right, so this one is going to be mod, and then what we want to mod is going to be the seat number, and then we're modding it by, well, the number of seats per row. And again, this works for 2, it works for 3, but then when we get to 4, right, this is where it goes to 0. Now, the way we can fix this, if we just go +1, okay, this nearly fixes it. So, for example, if we go to 1, well, it says 2, so, this is nearly correct. Then 2 it says 3, right, 3 it says 4, and right, 4 it says 1. So maybe you can see, but all of them, they're just shifted 1 to the right, okay, because it's saying kind of booking number 1 should be in seat 2, or column 2. Booking number 2 should be in column 3, right? So everything is shifted 1 to the right. Now the way we can fix that is if we just have a -1 here. And then, for example, if we go 1, well, it says column 1, right, 2 says column 2, 3 says column 3, and 4 says column 4, okay, which is correct. And now if we go for 5, okay, it says back to column 1. And of course we can try 8, right, yeah, 8 is going to be column 4. Okay, so you can see this is working. Now, similarly, we can actually just do the same. So if we just go quotient, and quotient just means div, okay, it's, div in, IGCSE syllabus. So here it's going to be the same. It's going to be this one -1. Then we divide it by this. Okay, hang on. Alright, and well then if we just go +1 out here, okay, and this should work. So again, let's just try this. It's saying, well, seat 1 is going to be row 1, column 1. If we try 4, okay, row 1, column 4. Let's try 8, okay, row 2, column 4. Alright, so yeah, basically this is working correctly. Now what we need to do, we just need to implement this here. Alright, and to be honest, I think actually Cambridge, they actually made a mistake in the mark scheme, because they actually don't have the +1, they also don't have the -1. So, honestly, like, I think their code is actually not going to work. Now, if they were using 0-based arrays, their code would work, but because we're using 1-based arrays, right, that's why we need this weird +1 and then also the -1 here. But I noticed, for example, when they loop, for like row to column, right, they're starting the loop at 1, right, which means obviously they're using 1-based arrays. So yeah, I think honestly their code, it just wouldn't work for this. But anyway, I mean, let's see if we can actually get this working then. So what we want to do, we just want to loop for the number of seats they booked. So let's say here, let's call it maybe seat. I guess seat is okay. Right, this will start at 1, and then we'll just go to the number of seats to book. And I think honestly these variable names, like, they're quite similar, so it's getting a little bit confusing. Maybe you could call it, current booking or current purchase, or I don't know, current seat purchase. Who knows? Right, anyway, let's say here, well then let's just go next, and we'll go next seat. So I think here I'm just going to make a variable, okay, because otherwise it's going to get quite confusing. Let's say row, and let's also say column, and right, these will both be of type integer. Now basically we just want to do those calculations, so we said the row is going to be, this is going to be div, because again, if we want seat 10, well, that basically means it has to be in row 3, right, because 2, I mean in this case, if we're using in this case we're using 20 columns, so I guess here if we want like seat 45, well, that means it's going to be in kind of row 3 and column 5 basically. Right, so what we want, this is going to be the this is the number of seats booked. Alright, but then we also want to go plus the seat num, because for example, if say 45 seats have already been booked, right, then this means the seat we want to book is going to be this one. And I mean honestly, let's actually make another variable. Let's call it maybe seat num, and seat num is just going to be the num seats booked, and then I guess plus the seat. Right, and then so let's say here this is going to be seat num, and then right, we're going to divide it by the number of columns, okay, and then if here we just remember this one we want -1, this one we want +1, and then the column, I mean we can just copy the same thing. Right, so here it's going to be column, right, then it's going to be mod, and again just the -1 +1, and I think that should be okay. And then what we can do, let's go evening, right, then we'll just go row, we'll then say column, and let's just set this to true. Alright, and then let's also check the mark scheme, see if there's anything else we need to do. Just output the row number and seat number for each seat booked. So let's just say output, and we'll just go booked, booked seat, and then I don't know, let's say row equals, and then this is going to be row, right, and then let's say column equals, and we'll just say column. And then I think what we then want to do, right, we have to remember to increment the number of seats booked. Now, if we increment the number of seats booked in here, well, then if we then plus the seat again, it's going to give us the wrong seat number. Because, for example, let's say the number of seats booked was 45. Right, well then if we plus 1 for this seat, the number of seats booked is going to be 46. Okay, but then on the next time round, well, the seat number now is going to be 2. Right, so now we're going to have 46 plus 2, which is going to go to 48, which means it's not going to book 47. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to increment this at the end. So let's go num seats booked, that's going to be num seats booked, and then plus the number of seats to book. Alright, so I think that should be fine. And I mean, was there anything else we need to do? Alright, I mean, so I think hopefully that's okay. Let's just test it, see if it works. Alright, see if there's any errors. Can't declare row because we've already declared something called row. Right, okay, I think it's just saying because we've used it here for the for variable. I mean, honestly, this is just a bug with the website. Okay, I'll try and fix that. Yeah, I'm not sure why it says that, to be honest. I mean, let's say, yeah, I mean, like seat row and I guess seat column. Yeah, this is a little bit annoying. And then here, this is going to be seat column. And then right, this one and this one. Okay, right, let's try it again. Right, okay, let's say we want to make a booking and we want to book 4 seats. And yeah, okay, this seems to work. Okay, it says book seat row 1, column 5. And then let's say we want to make another booking. All right, let's go another 4. Yeah, that seems to work. Right, let's go another 1, another 4. Right, another 1, another 4. Let's try one more. Then we'll just exit. And I mean, let's check that's worked. Okay, so here it gets to 20. And yeah, okay, so now it goes to row 2, column 1, and yeah, I guess, you know, so on. Alright, so yeah, that seems to be working. Now, I mean, if you wanted, I mean, you know, it's not in the question, but I guess, I guess it would be possible if you wanted, just to kind of output this nicely. For example, you could use squares to, you know, output which seat has been booked. Maybe use like black squares if it's not been booked, and, you know, green squares if it has been booked or something. I mean, again, you know, that's not for the actual exam question, but just so you can visualize this, you know, for practice. And I think I probably will actually do that. So let me just try this quickly. Let's make another procedure. Let's call it maybe show. Yeah, I know, like show booking. Well, I think, yeah, I think I don't have that already. Right, let's go end procedure. Okay, I'm just going to copy this. Okay, right, let's copy this. Right, and then what I'm going to do, I mean, let's just indent it. Let's go declare line. Okay, so this is how we just output things. Right, and then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to set line to an empty string here, and then we're just going to concatenate things to line on this. So let's say line. Right, then this is going to be line and then, well, just a character. Right, now let me actually find some emojis. Right, so I think, okay, let's go square. Right, if I can spell square correctly. Alright, let's use this black one. And, yeah, okay, maybe let's change that in a minute. Alright, and then, yeah, then I'm just going to use the green square if it has been booked. So I think, right, this one should be if it has been booked, and then, yeah, this one is if it's not been booked. Okay, and then what I want to do, I just want to go, yeah, we've got the end if. Right, then I just want to output here. And we're just going to output a line like this, okay, and I mean, hopefully this should work. Now, to be honest, this is going to be huge, so I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller. Let's say we only have 5 rows, and here maybe we've just got, I don't know, like 6 columns, so I just make it small. And then I guess here, what, there's only going to be 30. Alright, and then I think, yeah, that should be okay. And let's say after they book the seats, well, then let's just call and we'll go show bookings. Right, and let's hope this works. Right, so let's say make booking. Let's go 4. And yeah, okay, we see this seems to work. Let's go another one. Right, let's go 2. And I guess, yeah, okay. And then, yeah, I guess you can see here, right, we've booked another 2. And remember, right, we did set these 4 seats as booked to start with, because they do say that some seats have been booked, you know, kind of initially. All right, so I think this seems to work. So I think for the question, that's actually like finished. Although I will actually show you 2 other methods that we can use, because I know a lot of people find this mod and div method, you know, quite tricky. Okay, so my other method for how to tackle this problem is just going to be using multiply and subtract. Now, to be honest, I thought this would be simple, but I actually feel this is almost more difficult than the mod and div method, because what we're actually doing, we're kind of just doing mod and div, but, you know, doing them using well, these kind of, you know, base operations. Right, for example, let's say here we want to book this one, number 15. Well, what we can think, we just count, well, you know, the number of rows is 2. So what we would do is we would do something like this. So 15, right? Then we divide basically the rows, which is going to be 2, and then what we say there's 6 cells on each row, or 6 columns on each row. So for example here, right, this would say, well, this will be 3. Okay, so this will tell us it's going to be cell 3. Now, when we actually want to get the row count, I guess the row count we can go 15. Right, then we want to divide that by, well, the number of cells, or the number of columns per row, which that's going to be 6. And then basically here we just want to round down, right? So if we have like the floor function, you know, this will be 2. Or I guess, yeah, sorry, just using the, I mean, yeah, honestly here we can just use the div, I guess, to get this, right? So, you know, here we can get the 2. And then we can just do this to actually get the, kind of column. Yeah, I mean, so we'll try and do something like that. Right, so let's say for this column, rather than doing this mod, well, we would then want to do, right, what do we say? This will be the seat num. And, you know, the problem here again, I think we need this weird, like, -1 +1, otherwise it doesn't work. Right, and I did actually do this here in WPS. I mean, for example, this floor, this is basically just the div, or yeah, this will be kind of equivalent to div, I guess. And then, I mean, yeah, this one, we just need this formula here. All right, so honestly, it's a bit confusing, you know, when we have, the one-based arrays. But I mean, let's see if we can actually get this working. All right, it's probably a little tricky. So let's say, for example, the seat number is 15. Well, then what we want to do, I guess we want to, we want to minus, that's going to be seat row, right, and then that's going to be multiplied by the number of columns. All right, so I think here, again, if this is 15, well, 15, then, minus what, 2. And in fact, right, so this seat row actually has to be seat row -1. Because this will be the rows that we've already filled. Okay, it's not going to be the current row. All right, I mean, well, let's just see if this works. Right, let's say we want to make a booking. Let's say 4 again. That seems okay. Let's go another booking. Let's go another 4. And yeah, let's just exit. Right, I mean, so that seems to be okay. Yeah, this one, that's another 4. Right, that's another 4. And yeah, okay. So I mean, I think this seems to work. And let's also try, let's try and actually book completely. Just make sure it gives us the correct error message. And it's kind of annoying, so I can't really scroll down to see when it's given us the error message. But I mean, that should be enough. Right, okay, so yeah, here it says can't book 4, only 2 seats available, right, which, yeah, this seems to make sense. And again, I guess it's just saying the same thing. All right. Yeah, so I think this is working okay. Now, let's try the next method. We want to use an if statement, and we want to store the current row. So what I'm thinking here is we're literally just going to use a counter, right, and this will count what column we're on. And then when the column gets to 6, right, then we would just increment the row number and also set the column number back to 1. So let's probably go here. I'll just go like current row. Let's say current column. And to be honest, right, I'm actually just going to all right. I mean, I guess what we can do, when we go here, right, what we want to say. Okay, so, yeah, all right, so I think here then what we can do, we can just set the row and column to be, you know, this value here, right, this row and column, because obviously this is going to be the current row and column that's being booked. So let's say the current column, all right, that can be the column, and then here the current row, okay, that can just be the row. All right, and I think that should be fine. Let's just try and output that just to check. Let's go current row, let's output current column. Alright, and then this should say, I guess it should say what, row 1 and then column 4. Right, not being declared. Okay, why is that? Right, did I spell that wrong? Okay, I guess, yeah, too many R's. Right, okay, yeah, so here it says 1 and then, yeah, column 4. Okay, which that seems to be correct. Now, what we would want to do in here, right, let's say, and I guess we can actually change this to just be like seat row or, you know, current. Yeah, maybe let's change this to be current. Let's go current row. This can then be current column. Right, this is going to be current row. That's going to be current column. And then basically what we want to do, we just want to go current column. Right, this will just be equal to current column plus 1. And then we just want to check if this is bigger than the number of columns. So, right, if current column is greater than the number of columns, right, then what we want to do, well, we want to increment the current row. Right, and then we just want to set the current column back to 1. And I mean, hopefully this should work. Right, because I mean, well, this is my logic. Whether it works or not, I don't know. No, I can't undo again. Because again, you know, if we've got 6 seats that are booked, well, when it tries to book seat 7, you know, we're doing this current column plus 1, but then it will say, well, 7 is bigger than, you know, the 6 columns available. So then what's going to happen is, well, the row number is then going to increment by 1, so it's going to go to row number 2. And then it's going to go back to column number 1. All right, so, you know, row 2, column 1. And then, yeah, the next time it's just going to increment again. So, well, row 2, column 2, right, row 2, column 3. All right, so let's again try this, see if it works. Booking, let's go 4 seats. Yeah, that seems to work. Let's go another booking, another 4 seats, another one. And let's try and have 2 at the end. So we'll keep trying 4. Right, that should be enough. And then here, if we just go 2, then hopefully that should also say house full. Yeah, so this seems to work. Oh, okay. So I guess I booked those 2, and then I never actually tried to book again. I mean, let's just try and run it one more time quickly. Right, I mean, that should be enough. Let's go 2, and then let's try and book 4, and then we'll just exit. And yeah, here, okay, it says house full. Right, now probably that video's gone on quite a long time, and I would say this is probably, I mean, one of the most complex 15 markers I've seen. You know, definitely in terms of, yeah, this part here, you know, calculating the row, calculating the column. I mean, hopefully that makes sense, but if anyone has any questions, again, you know, just ask in the comments or ask on Discord, and yeah, I guess either me or someone else will try to answer them. Right, so I realised I was a bit unorganised and I did actually forget to comment my code. Now, obviously in the exam you will need to comment your code. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to give some comments, yeah, just to show, you know, what maybe sort of suitable comments could be. So let's say here maybe, yeah, you know, I don't know, like declaring total number of seats. And I mean, really, you know, if you're using good variable names, I mean, this should kind of, you know, explain it. You shouldn't really need to comment, but yeah, Cambridge, they, you know, they want you to. Total number of seats. Right, of seats in theatre. I guess this one we can just say, yeah, declaring integer variables. But I mean, honestly, hopefully this should be fairly, you know, explanatory. Right, I mean, this one is a bit more complex. So let's say this will be, yeah, let's say calculating, right, number of seats already booked. Let's say and the current, and I mean, obviously, right, if you're using the div and mod method, right, you wouldn't need to calculate this current row, current column. But yeah, since here we're not, okay, let's just comment this as well. And right, let's say and current row slash column, right, of sort of, yeah, most recent booking. I mean, I think this is fine. Like here, we could just say check if seat has been booked. Right. So here, let's say for this repeat until, we'll just say show user menu, show menu until user chooses like 2, unless you say exit in brackets. Right, okay, so menu choice 1, that's going to be, let's say make booking, menu choice. Well, let's just say 1 equals make booking. Alright, I think that's fine. And then I think this one, right, let's say for this we can just say, yeah, get, well, let's say get and validate the number of seats to book. And let's just say, 1 to 4, like this. Right, and then this one we're just checking if, yeah, I guess what, if booking has less, yeah, I know, like if, right, maybe if number of seats to book is less than the seats available, or, yeah, okay, all right, let's say if all of the seats to book are available. And I mean, as you can see, honestly, sometimes it's difficult thinking, how to actually explain this, just with sort of, a few words. Right, I guess if they are available, let's just say loop through, or we can just say, make each booking. Yeah, make each booking. This one we can, and again, if you're using the div mod method, obviously you wouldn't have this stuff here. But yeah, since I do, well, let's say, I don't know, if, yeah, maybe if seat should be new row, or should be next row. I mean, I think that's fine. I mean, I guess here we could just say set and output booking details. Right, output booking details. Here we'll just say, I don't know, I mean, well, let's just say like increment the number of seats already booked. Right, and then let's say here, right, if, I don't know, yeah, like if theatre already full, and I guess this else, well, this will be, else if, or else, I guess we'll just say if, right, if bookings, yeah, I know, we'll take the number over the seats available. Alright, and then, I mean, well, this show bookings, we don't need to comment because, again, this is just to help us visualize, right? I mean, well, obviously in the exam you wouldn't include this. Right, guys, so again, I mean, hopefully that video was helpful. I realise it's a bit all over the place, but, again, I mean, these questions are quite tricky, and this was probably, one of the most difficult ones. Right, so hopefully the next videos will be a little bit more clear, easier questions, and yeah, hopefully more useful. Alright, so yeah, hope to see you next time.